So, for example, I don't know, maybe I should create another video where I actually point the camera at the layout and describe the different elements. But for example, I've incorporated a clip from uh, this video, Rodriguez 10-minute film school, with the quote, "Don't dream about being a filmmaker, you are a filmmaker. Now let's get down to business." And um, this Peter Brook quote that Ken Robinson has cited in several different videos, including at TEDx London, um, which is, "All you need for theater is an actor in a space and somebody watching." And so, to some extent, that's what life is. Um, and there are times in life, and I've actually experienced a couple of times over the past year, people actually saying this feels like I'm in a movie, in interactions with me. And it's partly because of like my whole life situation is kind of strange, and I'm kind of looking at this big picture perspective on things and trying to really struggle with decisions and sort through decisions that traditionally people would just apply a rule to, or the advice that I get from people like just get a job at Starbucks or the grocery store or go do web work, or and then it's like who to do web work for, and then there's this question of like whether to continue what I've done before, which often leads to problems, which is establish these casual relationships with people, do things halfway on the basis of favor. Um, it's like mutual favors being exchanged as opposed to like having a formal contract and both parties really trying to take advantage, and the sort of way that that professionals work, where they try to like make sure their interests are represented and so on, and it's like in a way that's beyond just favors being mutually exchanged between friends or casual acquaintances, and so that's a whole nother thing. And so it's like with this is an example of these strings of like decision options. It's like a decision tree. This is which is a concept from decision science where you break down and look at the different alternatives. Like for example, today it's almost 10 a.m. Uh, the way the day could play out um, is can branch out in different directions, and it's like that partly has to do with what I decide to do. It's partly decided based on input streams from like phone calls coming in or things previously scheduled or me trying to get hold of other people. Um, and so that gets into this whole thing of like how do I process this queue of inputs into my life, and also provide an output that somehow feeds back into that cycle of inputs. And this gets into this term that I've come up with. I don't know if it's been used before, but uh, life workflow and life workflow process. And this is a term that I came up with in part based on this concept of workflow rules, which is a processing thing that we used back over a decade ago when I worked at Right Now Technologies, which is a web customer service company. And they actually were just acquired by Oracle. And it's noteworthy because one of the things I kind of was exposed to there and thought about is this concept of uh, customer experience. And there's this whole idea of the experiences of a company's customers, and it's and taking that into account.